Okay. 7 o'clock, we'll get started. And call the Committee of Whole meeting for Monday, December 13th to order. We'll start with the Acknowledgement of Treaties of Peace and Friendship. We would like to begin by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is traditional, unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq peoples. This territory is covered by the Treaties of Peace and Friendship, which Wolastoqiyik, Mi'kmaq, and Passamaquoddy peoples first signed with the British Crown in 1726. The treaties did not deal with surrender of lands and resources, but in fact recognized Mi'kmaq and Wolastoqiyik title and established the rules for what was to be an ongoing relationship between nations. Thank you, Llewellyn. Next, council, is the oath of office. We do hereby accept the office of council and will diligently, faithfully, and impartially discharge to the best of our ability the duties of the office as may be imposed upon us by law. Now we move to the adoption of the agenda. Do we have any additions or deletions at the moment? I think CEO Ferguson may have had a couple. Just give him a couple of chance here to get back in the seat.
I know under mine, Your Worship, I wish to remove the one about written reports for the newsletter.
Okay.
I believe that will come up on, someone else will bring that to the attention.
All right. Any other additions or deletions?
Your Worship, I have one under mine that I'd like to add, if I could, presentation.
Okay, so we'll do that under CEO Ferguson's agenda items. Do we have any other deletions or additions? Okay, so with the recognized addition and deletion, can we get a motion, please?
I move that the agenda be adopted as amended with the changes and the additions or deletions.
Can we get a seconder?
I'll second it.
Okay, seconded by Councillor Guitar McDonald. On the question, all those in favor say aye. All those against say no. Motion passed. Statements of a conflict of interest. Do we have anyone who needs to declare a conflict of interest? Okay. On to presentations. Do we still have Elaine Doucette presenting?
No, Your Worship, they called today and they rescheduled for January.
Okay. So we have business. Councilor Burke or Deputy Mayor Burke?
The first item I have is, has to do with adding items to our agenda. Based on the fact that motions are made only at the public meetings, I believe it's only fair to all of council that the recommendation should be that any item that is added to our agenda the night of the meeting should at least be clear and concise and should have all of the highlights so that council can make a decision as to whether that item should be added at a meeting, basically instantly. The other thing I'd like to mention is that any items that are brought to council at the last moment should require the unanimous decision of council to be added to the agenda. So with that said, I believe that any item that would come to the agenda that would be required an immediate decision, the answer should be no. That's my, and I'm exaggerating that, but my point is, the point I'm trying to make is that decisions of council we should have all of the information and we should be able to to know just from the caption of the addition whether that item is something that should be added to our agenda or not. So with that said, at the public meeting on next Monday, I will bring a motion forward that says that adding items to the agenda will require the unanimous approval of council. So that's so that everyone understands where I'm coming from and where it's going to go. You know, but the final decision of council will lie with the motion. So that's that item. The next item I have on my agenda.
Just 1 second, Quite.
Pardon me?
I have a question. I'll
Oh,
step down and
certainly.
step down and I'll ask you a question. So we have a procedural bylaw presently, right? And I'm not sure, I think it speaks to adding items to the agenda. Would we need to amend the bylaw?
Well, we'll look at it prior to, you know, I don't have a problem with it, you know. Does it say it requires the unanimous decision of council?
Yes, it does. It says, "Any additional matter not included on the agenda shall only be considered with the unanimous consent of all members of council present at the meeting." And it's bylaw number 10-2004.
Yeah, but no motion should be made without the explanation of what it pertains to. You just can't say, oh, I have something to add to the agenda and leave it at that. I agree with the policy, but I also believe that there should be a highlight as to what the motion will cover. It shouldn't be a mystery.
So, again, I'll step down. Two things I think. Number one, in the last council, I know it was last, we would come to the meetings and we would basically put anything on the agenda at the last minute that we wanted to. That was something we should not have.
That's right.
And we got in the habit of doing that, right? We all sort of accepted it as an unwritten rule that if you wanted to bring something to, I don't remember ever adding something to the agenda at the last minute that didn't get on, right? It does cause issues, right, for sure, I think. So I think it's a good idea, but we already have it. So I'm just talking about adding the agenda items. I'm not talking about the motion itself. But, so I don't know if
See,
it's.
I think it needs to be clear that an added item to the agenda, if it has the highlight of what you're trying to bring to the agenda, I don't have a problem with that. The motion or the concept of what I'm trying to bring to the table is basically, I wouldn't want to have somebody say, well, I'm going to make a motion because I want to speak, you know, I want to say something. Well, at the end of the day, that's not acceptable. And
No,
it shouldn't be acceptable by council. You know, an item that should be coming, that is added to the agenda. I mean, something could happen in our community that does require a quick decision. And all of council may not be aware of that, what happened. For example, somebody could approach a council member at 4 o'clock on Monday afternoon and on an issue that is important to our community. Well, there's not a problem to bring that to add that to the agenda, provided the idea is clear and everyone has the concept of what you're bringing forward. Not, well, I just have something I want to add to the agenda. In my opinion, that would be unacceptable.
So what about if we just take the bylaw and apply it as it is? But be
I'm
strict-
comfortable with that, but I just wanted council to be aware that that's where I, as a council member, prefer to go.
Yeah.
And if council has no objection, then I'm comfortable with that.
So, yeah, and Deputy Mayor's right. You know, if we have something happens tomorrow with an EMO, for example, right? And we need to have something at motion at the last, but nobody's going to object to that anyway, right? But if we've all done that. I've done that. I think we need to be a little bit stricter about if you want to bring something to the agenda after the agenda's been written, then it should take full council to approve. That's the way it is in the bylaw. That's the way we should enforce it, right? Would everybody be?
One other thing that I'm a little concerned too, like, let's say somebody wants to put something on the agenda, and somebody that's gonna vote no, or possibly vote no, is not here, so we're gonna put it on the agenda, add it on the agenda that night. That could also be a problem. You know, I think any important matter that needs to be voted on, full council should be here. Like, you know, we don't know with COVID, you don't know if you're gonna be sick, you don't know if you're not gonna be able to attend a meeting. So I think that that's another thing that we need to look at too, to make sure that any important votes that's coming through, that all council is here, or if you can do it virtual, like especially like something that's gonna change.
But the only thing is, now that one you're getting into having to change your bylaw. Because as it presently stands, if something's on the agenda, but one counselor's not here, if you have a quorum, then it can get voted on, right?
Basically, there should be no problem that all counselors shouldn't be here with the virtual and stuff now that we have. So, you know, there's always a way to come into a meeting.
Any other comments or questions on that?
Just, the only comment I'm going to make to that is that Councillor Carmichael is absolutely correct. I have been on councils that motions came to the floor when a council member was missing, and there was reasons for that. They were self-motivated reasons for that. So I agree 100% with your statement that decisions of that nature should involve all of council, you know, and now you're talking about the respect that council has for each other. And at the end of the day, I have no hesitation in saying that, you know, this council has demonstrated that they have a little bit of respect for each other, and hopefully a whole lot of respect for each other. And those decisions will be made when all of council is present. So, yeah, I agree 100% with that.
So just my last comment, just so it'll be clear, starting next week, any items to be added to the agenda will need full approval of council, as it states in our bylaw.
That's great. I mean, the other side of the coin to all that is we all know that if it's not, like, I can add anything to my agenda that I wish to add in writing prior to the last minute. We're talking about additions to the agenda at the last minute. So I just want to make that clear. The next item I have on my agenda here is a long-term strategy for business in Beldoon. I believe that we have talked about it in having bringing all the businesses in Beldoon together for some consultation as to what should be done. We basically have finished our budget for 2022, but we have not finished our strategic planning for 2022. So I believe that we should be looking at something that the input, what's required, ideas from our business people, and where we need to go. So maybe in the first meeting in January, we'll maybe put something together and put a date in place that we can deal with some of these ideas. So, you know, I just wanted to talk about it and put it out there and see how council feels about it. But with that said, it'll probably be something I will have on my agenda, probably the first meeting in January. I recognize this is short term between now and Christmas, but I did want to talk about it. The next item I have there is basically the medallion for citizens in Beldoon, which is called the Medallion of Merit. I developed this policy back when I was mayor. It is a recognition of the contribution that citizens make to our community. I'm hoping that all of council, when they seen it on the agenda, kind of read it. There is a medallion that goes with this. That policy states that there are only 5 people who can have the medallion who are living. So council would be limited to 5 people who, you know, if we're looking at making a recommendation as to someone who should receive this, this merit, then we need to look at how many people are actually wearing the medallion or has a medallion, and we cannot pass 5. I can tell you right now that I have awarded 4 people this medallion One has passed away since that. So there are 3 people in our community who have the medallion at this moment in time. And I don't know if you're aware of who they are, but I'll share it with you. Rayburn Doucette was presented with one. Then our 3 Korean veterans, which were Raymond Shannon, Lloyd Doucette, and Earl Hickey. And Earl Hickey has since passed on here about 2 or 3 weeks ago. He passed away. So with that said, there are 3 medallions that are affected by the policy. So if council wish to look at the policy and evaluate that, and if you have any ideas or merits that you believe should be brought forward, by all means, these things, I'll give you an example. I put the medallion on the 3 Korean veterans, just to emphasize what it means. And I put the medal on the 3 Korean veterans, and one of them made the statement to me after, and it stuck with me forever, and it touched my heart. He said, "I'm a Korean war veteran. This is the first medal that somebody has pinned on my chest." And that stuck with me in my heart, meant a lot to me as an individual and a person, that I had the privilege of to pin that medal on his chest. And with that said, that's what this medal means. It brings pride to our community. It brings recognition to council that we recognize the contribution that these people are making. And at the end of the day, I believe it deserves to be evaluated constantly and moving it forward. So that's my last comment on that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Carmichael.
Yes, I just want to let everybody know that I did the seminar with George Cuff virtually. It was a very good seminar, and he gave me a lot to think about. A lot of the stuff he had was like Jack Novak, but I had heard so much good thing of this George Cuff that I wanted to see what he had to offer. He went items a little deeper and then similar. He also said that it's good that we always have these orientation right at the beginning. Also, he said it's not a bad idea to even have a pre-orientation before you go for council to know what council is all about, because a lot of us walk into it and we don't know what it's all about and what's all involved into it. So I just wanted to give you all a little update on that. And basically, it was, again, the roles of council and staff and so on. So, every time you go to these orientation, you pick up a little bit here and a little bit there. So it was a very good webinar, and I enjoyed it. I also have a meeting with the ATV Club tomorrow evening, if it's not canceled. If there's any questions that any of you want to ask, or if any of you want to attend with me, you're more than welcome. It's tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. It's supposed to be at the lodge, and I was speaking to Sandra Deverks, and she told me if there's any changes, she should get back to me. But if there's anything you want to ask or bring forward, just send me an email tomorrow, or if you want to attend, just show up. So tomorrow night at 7 at the lodge. So that's just the 2 things I've had on my agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Guitar McDonald.
The items that I have on my agenda, one was Deputy Mayor Burke. We were going to talk about the monthly reports. It's important for the residents in our community to know what we are doing as a council, whether it be as a group or individually. And so we have talked about putting in the messenger a report of what we've been doing over the month, so that residents will have access to this information, and it'll go to everybody. A lot of people don't see these, and so I think at the end of it, we will be able to inform our residents of what it is we are doing as a council on a monthly basis. Is everybody on board with that?
I would comment on that,
Yeah.
And I just didn't want to, both of us bring it to, but I've been doing some soul searching on that, and I agree 100% with the comment. The only thing that council may need to consider are a couple of things, in my opinion. the messenger comes out on the 1st of every month, which means that if we're writing a report from, say, our committee of the whole meeting and our public meeting, that, which happens, let's say, on the 1st of the month and happens around the 20th of the month with our public meeting, then the report has to be written, in my opinion, somewhere between the 20th and the 25th or the whatever to meet the criteria of meeting the messenger. Council must also remember that the minutes will not be published until the following month will not be approved. So you need to be careful how you're saying and what you're saying, because you may be talking about something that hasn't been motioned or approved of council yet. The other side of the coin to that is that we need to find somebody who's willing to write the message. Again, for me personally, and I'm only throwing it out there, I believe that, we have in this room an individual who has written several books, which would make him more than versatile on writing reports and that type of thing. He is also the person responsible for bringing messages to and from council, that type of thing. And he is also the spokesperson for this council in public. So unless, and by now you gather, I hope, that I'm referring to the mayor, but unless he prefers not to write that report, I would look at an alternative at that time. But personally, I would recommend that the mayor write those reports for publication into the messenger. That's my comment.
I appreciate that. I do. I appreciate that. Very nice for you to say it. And I know last term there were some things on council that they asked me to write, and I did. I just find right now sometimes I get caught up in meetings and stuff like that. I think, and I'm not saying this. I do. I think that probably Deputy Mayor Burke would be a good person to write that. He writes well, he speaks well. Anyone on council could do it and do well. That's just a suggestion of mine, but I think, to be honest with you, I'd step back for that. I just might not have the time to meet deadlines, to be honest with you.
So then the only other comment I would make to that would be council need to find somebody who's willing to write it. I don't know if it's appropriate to wait and see what council says, or should we volunteer? But I'll say it this way. If you are looking for someone who would write it as a volunteer, I have no issues with that. I would do it. But I would also recognize that if someone else on council wishes to write it, I would not stand in the way of that individual, because I believe that, some people feel much more passionate about other things. This isn't a passion for me. It's more of, I recognize the comment saying that I do believe the public should be aware of what's going on council on a monthly basis. And I think it's a great idea. And that's why if there are no other people or council members wishing to deal with that, then would I do it? Yes. So I'll leave it at that.
Do we have any other council members who would want to take that on? Okay. So if Deputy Mayor Burke, if you want to take that on, you have council's approval, appreciate that.
We'll just ensure that everybody has the information
Yeah,
that they
that's
want
right.
and they get it to him on
And
time.
idea too, if everyone and CEO had a chance to review it first, just to make sure that things were, and I'm sure that's.
The one thing, I believe our clerk here this evening is the one who runs it off on, what kind of deadline are we looking at that? Is that always trying to be out for Monday the 1st? Or is it always on a?
Yeah, usually we try to get it out at the beginning of the month, so usually the 25th, 26th, if you could send it to me, and I'll add it in to, on the newsletter when I get it from the librarian.
So I think if council has no objection, that when I write these, that I would send it out to council prior to it going to the messenger. Just now, I'm not going to sit here and say, well, I'm waiting for everybody to confirm whether they're in agreement or not. What I'm saying is, you will get the copy in advance. If there is an issue with what you read, then yes, you should get back to me as quickly as possible. I will always try to give you at least a couple of days prior to sending it to the messenger. So that's, and these are verbal commitments in the sense of saying that time doesn't always allow it. And I know, I could send it out and you may be away and you come back and all of a sudden there's something controversial there that in your opinion and you need to address. But at the end of the day, I will say this much, that the message will never state any councillor's name or the mayor's name or the CAO's name. The message that I think we need to bring to the public has to do with what we're doing so that they understand where we're going. The public sometimes, wonders, well, I wonder what they're up to, or I wonder what's happening, or I wonder what's going on. And that's what I want to cover. I don't want to cover, one counselor said this and one counselor, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. At the end of the day, these are information issues, not, there will never be a personal comment in there for me. That's not what I honestly believe, that this isn't a personal column for me. This is a council issue, and that's why I will commit to making sure as often as possible. I mean, anything can happen, but it will be on in your computer prior to going to publication. Okay?
Okay, Councilor McDonald.
The second part of my agenda is, before we leave today, I'm handing you each a booklet. It's a newcomer booklet that the Health and Wellness Coordinator and myself have been working together on. I'm going to hand them out to each of you because if there's additions that you think we need to include into this booklet, please feel free to write in it and hand it back or bring it to Mr. Culligan. But you can go over it over the holidays and see what you think. He's been working quite hard on that. And another thing, I just want to let you know the calendars are in, so we're getting those ready to be sent out this week. And the last thing on my agenda is I understand that the mayor and Councillor Carmichael are meeting with the EMO representative in our area, Scott Poupard. It is very important that our residents are kept up on what to do in case of an emergency, especially with everything going on out there in our country and south. So I think as a community, we need to be prepared in case of an emergency hits us. So I know that the mayor and Councillor Carmichael are meeting, and when we can get things rolling, maybe the residents and the council can work together on trying to put a program in place in case of a drastic emergency setting in our village.
Yeah, and I think he's also, even before he meets with Councillor Carmichael, he's going to meet with myself, he's going to meet with council on Zoom. But you make a good point. In fact, to me, this is probably I'm going to use the word the scariest, but what I fear when we have an emergency situation is the public not knowing what to do. And that's what we need to get from, I think, from Scott, is, a process where, let's say, for example, the public hears of a train derailment or becomes made aware of a train derailment. What do? Because you don't want, 200 people calling the CAO's number and everyone being in a panic. And I think the biggest favor we could probably do ourselves with the EMO right now is that, to let the public know, in case of something, these are your steps. And I think we have to ask Mr. Poupart to help us address that. Because that's, why, he tells me we're in a good place. He tells me that, if he feels confident that if something were to happen, Beldoon's prepared. But my only uncertainty is the reaction of our citizens upon hearing something's happened. And that's what we need to address, I think.
I also think we need to address storms. We're getting into the winter, bad weather, power outages. We need to also look what we would do if we had no power for, let's say, a week. It's a possibility in today's world, especially with the ice storms we've been getting, and we've seen it first. I've seen it firsthand in other areas. So I'm just wondering, if we had some of the buildings, we have plenty of buildings here that we could put somebody in, and you must have something. Do you have? Yeah, and Nicole just informed me that we do have something. So, yeah, so if you wouldn't mind sending that to me, Nicole, and I would look over. Do you have it up? Emergency, okay, thank you.
If I may, Your Worship, I have personal experience with the EMO people back in 2014 when Hurricane Arthur went through the village of Beldoon. I can assure you, these are highly trained professionals. It wasn't Scott, it was Ken McGee at that time, but just an outstanding individual, well-trained, knew exactly how to handle scenarios and provided tremendous information and guidance to council. And if I can say that we got a lot of credit for what transpired during that crisis from a lot of surrounding communities, because we had the only water that was available. The Legion supplied water for people, right from the tap. They came and got it by the buckets. EMO had the Red Cross send us 180 2-4s of water, which we distributed to people who didn't have power for drinking water and things like that. So my point is that these EMO people are highly, highly trained and highly, highly skilled at what they do. So I know we're in good hands, and I know that the information that they'll supply will be of value to us all.
Maybe speaking of a smaller scale, a couple of years ago back at the town site, that they had no power for several hours. I think it was more like 24 hours or more, or 3 days. And like there was seniors in the homes, and nobody went out and checked on them. That's something that maybe our fire department could do. When we find out of that, sometimes it's hard. When the power goes out, sometimes the phones go out. So, but a lot of people have cell phones today. So that's all things we need to look at in a smaller scale, also in a bigger scale. Because, seniors don't always have access to vehicles to get themselves out in the warmth and so on.
I was just wondering too, Ron, in regards to what the comment you had made when they gave out the water and stuff, like where did people go to get it? How was anyone informed as to who needed it?
I think it was done by word of mouth. It ended up that, we were in a crisis situation. There were down trees, down power poles. The fire department at times were standing guard 24 hours a day over certain areas, because the power lines were live. And, so it did become, they did announce it over the radio, because power came back in some areas sooner than others. The village of Beldoon, I believe, went 4 days without power. But there were some people in the outlying areas like Gravel Hill, in those much more remote areas that were like a week, 7-8 days. So they had no water, no running water. So it was basically, being distributed for their use from the Legion. And it went extremely well. I don't recall how they got that word out there, but I'm gonna have to say that it probably, power came back on the radio sooner, because that would be in Bathurst and, or Camelton. And, I believe it was announced there that if you needed some water, drinking water, you could come and get it at the Legion.
The reason I ask is because I was one of the ones that was 4 days without water, and it was almost in front of my house where the fire department was there standing guard because that's where the trees were down. And if I remember correctly, just above the church, like by where the campground is, they had power there, but none down this way. And so I was with 4 days without water, and I had no idea that anybody was giving out water. So whatever the procedure was to let people that didn't have water know that there was some available, it didn't get to this end. So that is something that we do need to get in place as a way to let people know, because it was a horrible, horrible 4 days.
And that's a very good point that can be brought to the attention of the people who know how to handle that, So, yeah, I believe that's a very strong issue.
Yes, I agree. The same here. I wasn't aware of that. Well, my aunt had power on the other side of the bridge, so I drug my water from her house to my house, so, but yeah, it was 4 days and I wasn't aware. Yeah, we didn't know.
Thank you, Your Worship. A few updates on some items that were, some of them from the last meeting and some of the other ones that are just new. The first one is the fire truck, safety truck update. The RFP went out mid-October, and the deadline for that is January 17th. So the committee will make a decision to bring that back to council probably on the second meeting in January, or at least the first meeting in February. AJN, I know a lot of people have been wondering, and the word is out around there about AJN coming. Are they coming? Are they not coming? Well, it's I haven't had any communication with them for a while. Our last meeting, they had requested 3 items, and 2 of the 3 you agreed to. The third one, which was purchasing of some land, we didn't. And I did send off a letter indicating that to them, which I have not received a response from. So I did send another email today to see if they could give us some kind of update with regards to what's going on. But I don't really have anything else besides that. The next item I have is a chairlift for the Circle of Friends. Mr. Darrell Culligan brought forward to me a request from the Circle of Friends, and I think everybody knows who they are, but they're a volunteer group that help a lot of different individuals who are struggling in the village, and they do a great job. I was down to visit. It's a wonderful job. They put a lot of work and effort into it, but they don't have a whole lot of funding. They do get some funding, but they don't have a lot. So we are, Mr. Culligan is working to try to get funding for them for some of these things. But one of the things that they do have, if you know where it is, it's on the top of the fire hall in Jagger River. The stairs are very, very long and tall, and they're in dire need of a chairlift. A lot of their patrons are seniors or elderly people, and so they certainly do require that. So they are seeking funds for that chairlift, and I just wanted to let you know that I will be bringing forward the request to council at next Monday's meeting for that if we don't get any funding prior to that. So I just want to let you know. The other side of that is I got another request. Sorry, that I should have added this, but anyway, it's I got a request from the Belgium Senior Villa also for they are in the search for a new TV, and for their TV area. I need to get some more information on that for you before I request anything for it. So that one, I just want to let you know that they did put a request in, and I know that sometimes we do help these places, and I think we got some a swing this year, and then I think we're going to be getting another swing for the other one in the spring here too. So as I said, Mr. Culligan is searching for looking for funding for that through different programs, and I gave him Mr. Cormier's number since he said there's all kinds of programs out there to get money. So we'll see how that works.
Do we know how much something like that costs?
The chairlift?
chairlift?
Yeah,
Yeah.
probably anywhere between $8,000 and $10,000.
Do you know, Scott, if they've had anybody in there to take the measurements to see
Yep,
they have had someone in?
I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah.
And also too, because we're talking about the TV for the seniors complex, do you know if it's ever been looked into, or maybe you could ask Daryl to look for funding for this as well, but to have internet provided for the seniors complexes for both of them, as a way for them to be able to keep in touch with family members, especially with everything that's going on. I'm thinking that there may be some federal funding to be able to provide these people with, there may even be programs to get them iPads or some form, something, a way to be able to communicate with people when everything's on lockdown.
Right, I was unaware that they didn't have it myself, so I'll put that to Mr. Culligan as well, so that he can look for some funding, and we'll get a costing for it as well first, so. Just our two boosters that we put in here for our cell phones, which now work great, because we couldn't, if we had an issue out here, we couldn't do anything or talk to anybody. We'll try to work our way through it. But that was ended up being a lot less than what we anticipated. We thought it was going to be somewhere up to around 10,000 to 15,000. We got it done both towers for under 4,000. So I think there are some things out there that we can look at, and I'll get Daryl to certainly look into that this week. Excuse me. CAO recruitment. Just to let the public know, council knows where we are, but committee was struck to replace the CAO. I'm just here for as the internal CAO. And so we have a committee that was formed, some members of council and the mayor and some local people who are on that committee. We certainly like their participation. Without them there, it would be a lot harder, but they're certainly helping us out a lot. We have people from the port, Mr. Didine Carroll, and we have Mr. Gordon McDougall, a resident who's an administrator in schools. And we have some great council members in the mayor looking for that. We've had a couple of meetings. We are moving along quite quickly. Well, not quickly, but we're moving along at a good pace. And hopefully we have all the groundwork done basically to get ready to put an advertisement out for that. It's a very important position in your community. And we're hoping that will get out to the public across probably Canada by the end of next week. Excuse me. The next one is the Shiller Drive Water Committee meetings. We're working as probably most people in the village know that there's been an issue with water on Shiller Drive for many years and getting worse as we get into global warming and the level of the river goes down because they're fed their water from the Jacket River. The level of the water goes lower, it gets more soot and things in it, and it is also, the water is also, temperature has risen over an average of 2 degrees in the last 3 or 4 years. So that doesn't help the situation either because it creates more algae and things like that, bacteria. So we have been working, council has agreed to get a new filtration system at the Jacket River. And we put a request in to use our gas tax money, but I just want to let people know that there's a process for doing that. Gas tax projects are set out by the municipality, and they really expect you to follow that, so you're not changing every year when you have a different government or whatever. The request has been put in to make that a priority. We have not heard anything back on that yet, but I'm pretty much assuming in my experience with the city of Bathurst that's usually they will take into account what you're looking to do, if it's best for what your city is. There's also so I will be speaking to Mr. Peter Dybenborden this week. We also are going to begin discussions, hopefully, with we have a little bit with NB Power, Shaw, Shiller, because as you know, with the smelter shutting down, that the water that we're using, that pipe, which is, I think, forget how many kilometers, 9 kilometers or something like that long. The village has the first right to refusal, but it's, it'd be a daunting task to take that on. So we're looking at other options, and the way we can do that is to look at the water contingency plan for Schiller Drive. And at our last meeting, I had already met once with them, and then was going to bring something forward, but it was tabled. And it's with, I'll let Deputy Mayor speak to this in a second about what we're going to do with it from here on in. The Deputy Mayor was with us at the meeting, as well as Councillor McDonnell. And we had a good meeting, but there are some certain things that we need to look at. And one of them is from the committee. They want us to do a few things before, and I think it's a very important thing, because the year 2023 is coming up, and every municipality has to have their asset management plan, as well as their state of infrastructure plans before you get any funding anymore. If you don't have that in by that date, then your funding, you're not going to get any. So you've got to make sure that you get that done. So it has been started. I think CAO Lee was working on this. I'm not sure how far it's gone. I had a discussion with the mayor this weekend, but this week we're going to be looking at that here in the next week or so to see exactly where we are in that process. So, and I think I'll leave it to the deputy mayor to explain about the tabling of it and where we're going from there.
Yeah, thank you. I believe that this is a perfect example of council showing the respect that is required for us to function efficiently. And by that I mean this. The motion was made to table the water study, which was somewhere around $11,000, and to be taken out of their fund and things like that. And the motion was tabled, and council approved that motion. And we had the meeting with that committee, and lo and behold, we come to find out because of that committee that there is a risk management study done in the village of Belgium, done I believe in 2019. And I will say that I believe Don Gallen is he did a lot of that working for NB Power, evaluating risk management, which is an asset in this case of what is required to evaluate their situation and where they'll need to go with water. So my point to all of this just comes down to that, again, it shows that council has respect to when a motion is tabled, that there is more to it than actually meets the eye. That report will be given to each member of council. The committee has asked if council, other than have that motion that was tabled, come back to the table. It should be coming back in December, but I believe it'll be on Councillor McDonnell's, Guitar McDonnell's agenda to look at a different date, and council can decide at that time what they wish to do with it. But with that said, it just was another example of where council showed the vision to get all of the information, and that risk management plan that will be distributed for your reading pleasure over the Christmas holidays, will be a joy to evaluate. But my point is that information was not on this council's table until that meeting. And that is going to be a critical part of our assessments and the risk that the village of Beldoon is in over the next 4 years. So I believe that, council can read that, evaluate it, and then we'll look forward to where we're going with it in the future.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. The importance of this is it's big time, because this tells you all your assets, where they stand, are you at risk with anything, which would involve lawsuits and things like that. It also involves budgeting, how you would spend things to make sure that everything's up to date as well as you can, and that you're looking at this to prepare for the future. And I think that's why the government wants all these in by 2023, so that everybody, they know where the money's gonna go and things like that, and to improve your municipality. Speed reduction on Main Street, we're slowly, no pun intended, trying to get through that. We have changed with Department of Transportation's blessings, the speed limit from the superette down to the municipal building here to 70. I thought they were all changed properly, but apparently there's a few things we're going to work on there, and thank you, Councillor Robinson, for pointing it out. I'll be looking after that tomorrow. I'll get Cameron on that. In the last one is signs for the municipal building. Since the building's been bought, we have a number of rooms. We don't know, half the people don't know where they are, don't know what the washrooms are, whatever. But anyway, we've got some signs. We had someone coming in to give us a, you have a beautiful building here, so you just don't want to put up, like we have out in the hall right now, Post-it notes on the doors. So that's basically just looking for that. I think that probably has to come to next week's meeting. So you can take a look at that and decide what you'd like to do with that. And I just have one further thing. If there's any questions for me, I will take them, but one last thing. Well, it is a very special night tonight. It's actually a couple of weeks ago. I'm going to turn this over to the mayor in a second, but I've had an opportunity to work with someone we're going to be recognizing tonight. I was an administrator in school, and so I know the importance of your first line workers, and that's and for us that's Nicole. Nicole's been here for a while, and so we've taken upon ourselves to recognize her, and so the mayor is going to start it off.
Thank you, Sale Ferguson. So yes, we have a special presentation tonight. Our administrative assistant is celebrating an anniversary with the village. And I thought before I actually make my own presentation and my own comments, I would go around and ask each council member to sort of give their thoughts and their comments on appreciation to our administrative assistant, Nicole Carrier. Marilyn, you can start us off.
Absolutely. Nicole has been my go-to girl. I appreciate everything that you do, and you've been such a great help for me. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Well, Nicole, you have the privilege for me for another 5 years. I want to thank you for everything. I don't say it enough. And like I said, you're the people we go to. You're important to us, and we don't tell you, but we think it a lot. So thank you for everything.
As the person who's at the front desk that has to greet the people and put up with some of the flack and stand there with a smile and do all of those things that you do so well, and over the years and the length of time that you've done it, kudos to you. Great job. We're happy to have you here, and thanks for everything that you do. And I know that sometimes someone in your position can go sometimes maybe unnoticed, or it may feel like you're unappreciated. And after 25 years, wow, way to go. Congratulations.
Oh, Nicole, you take such good care of me. Lost keys and last minute printing, and thank you from the bottom of my heart for always with a smile. Thank you.
Surely, Nicole, at the end of the day, 25 years is without any doubt a milestone that very, very few people achieve. Your contribution to our community, your recognition that what you bring to the table, not only for the people in our community, but to council, the organizational skills that you have and have adapted over the years are recognized by many people, but said by few. With that said, for me personally, I have had the privilege of working with you through various councils, and it has always been a privilege, and you have always been an asset to what I'm trying to achieve and where we need to go. So certainly, on behalf of all those who maybe don't know you, it comes down to that professional people are very, very difficult to find, and you have been an extremely ambassador to our community and a professional in your job. And you are recognized throughout the municipalities, because I've had the privilege of talking to people in various communities that recognize that we have people of your asset and your skills here in Beldoon. So on behalf of all of our citizens, thank you for your contribution. We look forward to working with you in the future.
As well said, Council, and for me as well, I think it's important to recognize not only your contribution, but your family's contributions to the communities too. You're always taking part in activities. Just saw you recently on Maureen's picture on Facebook, which is nice that you take part in these activities, and your family, minor hockey all the way through up and all of that. So being an asset to the community also means taking part in the community, and you've done that. And as far as council is concerned, one of the council members, I think Councilor Carrier mentioned, like, going unnoticed. Sometimes the most valuable people are the ones who are the least noticed. So thank you for everything you've done. 25 years. I wasn't going to mention 25 years till somebody else did, by the way. Wasn't going to touch that. But very well done, and we have a presentation for you. I'm going to respect COVID and keep the mask on, but we're going to take a picture up front too. So congratulations.
You just caught me by surprise. I just want to say, 25 years, it's been a while. I started, I was only young. Thank you so much for recognizing that I've been here for 25 years. I truly appreciate it. Some days are tougher than others, but we get by. So thank you so much for your kind words and your gifts. Thank you very much.
Okay, I think that just about wraps it up then for this evening. So if we could have a motion to adjourn.
I move that the meeting is adjourned at 8 o'clock.
The seconder?
I will second it.
Okay. Councilor Guitart-McDonnell. On the question, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, that's a wrap.